Okay, welcome to Current Exposure. Wait a minute. Let me see. Hold on. Let me make sure. Audio. Audio. Okay. All right. Speaker. Okay. I'm just getting my headphones together. Okay. Wait a minute. Let me run the intro back. All right, welcome. Current Exposure. We have an interesting show tonight, and it's about rest in peace to toxic relationships. Hold on, let me see. Let's get the banner going up there. This is Current Exposure. I am your host, Shakima K. Thomas. And this evening, I would like to introduce you to our one of our guests, Tisha Glover.
Hello.
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 How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me good?
Yes, I can hear you
Oh, great,
perfectly.
great, great, great. Because I was like, oh my God.
No, I can hear you. Know what? It was my headphones weren't connected, so that's why I couldn't hear you.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
so I straightened that out. And basically, people have been asking me when I was going to do a show on relationships and toxic relationships, situationships, and successful relationships that last a lifetime. So that's why I I found you, brought you
Okay.
on because you're the licensed marriage and family therapist. And can you tell us? I know you have a couple of other initials after your name that I'm not sure what they mean,
Yeah,
but let
no,
us
absolutely.
know who you are. And we'll give also we're gonna have Lauren Ciandra. She's a beauty and lifestyle influencer. We're
Oh,
going to bring her on too. And basically we're gonna have a discussion with all three of us about these relationships. I'm
right.
not an expert. You're the expert. I just lived through relationships. That's it. And yeah, I'm wondering why some of them work, some of them don't. I haven't really slowed things down to look at a comparison, but people in the community I've been seeing, yeah, crazy relationships, these situationships, especially in the Gen Z generation. So yeah, I would just like to get your take on it as an expert. And so yeah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, well, like you were saying, my name is Tisha Glover. I am my master's. I went to grad school. I think, oof, it's been a good almost 2020. I finished with my grad degree in marriage and family counseling therapy. That's the
Okay.
master's, and I
Okay.
actually am an associate licensed marriage and family therapist, which means that I am finishing up the rigors to become state licensed. But in that time between 2020 and as of current, a wealth of information has availed itself to me. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
it will prove itself beneficial, hopefully, during this segment of your show. Thank you. First, I want to say thank you
Yes.
for having me.
Yes.
It's always an honor to be able to share what information that I do have and have
Mm-hmm.
gained over the years, from a clinical standpoint. And life experience, of course, is not without not to be not recognized.
Uh-huh.
There's so many different, but the MS is for the masters, the LMTFA is for the associates licensed in marriage and family therapy. The CLC, I'm also a certified life coach.
Okay. Okay.
Right, and the CHHLP is because I am into the well-roundedness of it all. I also am into crystal healing.
Okay.
Practices. So that's what all of those that nice little long alphabet after my name.
Okay.
So for a while, all inclusive of life experience and some other things, but the clinical piece and all of the stuff that helps to hone out a career and hone out everything that I've experienced in life, I've brought it all together in a nice little, academic stint, so to speak.
Okay.
And so now we're here. So thank you once again.
You're very welcome. So basically you blend your life experience with your professional experience to help people make better choices and decisions.
Absolutely. Like what happens is, when you think about it, where do we come from? Where do we come from? Family is the first relationships that we have.
Okay.
The first relationship, and anybody who's listening or comes across this after a recording post show, just think about your first relationship.
Okay. Now, okay, and I'm glad you brought that up, because what I'm seeing now is a lot of people referencing what occurred in their childhood amongst their family, and saying that's the reason why they behave certain ways they do today in their current relationships. Like, for an example, people who have abandonment issues, they go back and they say, well, I have this childhood trauma, so this is why I'm in this relationship to the next relationship, and I'm never fully committed in a relationship. I'm halfway in, I'm halfway out, because they would say stuff like their mother wasn't there or their father wasn't there. So does that those primary relationships really affect a person to the point where they can't stop and say, hey, I'm doing the same things that were done to me in my current relationships? Because it's I'm not saying they make an excuse for the behavior, but they do reference it.
Right. Well, like I said, and when we were speaking just a few moments ago, if you think about your first relationships set the bedrock for how a lot of people, this is the theory of family counseling, family therapy, family theory, is that the first relationships that we have, which are with mom or dad, siblings that you're living in a household with, those relationships start out with interactions, and then what you're taught becomes, like, at some point habit forming, right. And then those relationships go out into what's your next relationships, probably in the school when you preschool, so you're in that environment, and whatever you learned at home, excuse me, please, thank you, or if you haven't, you into the environment, and that goes out, and then you pick up other things and other mannerisms, and because we're impressionable, if you really at our young ages, our minds are forming, our personalities are forming, our characters are not even there, so you learn how to pick up certain mannerisms, even if it's just if you do this or so. Family is the first relationships that I find that whatever goes on in the household will determine and this is the belief in the theory that I went to school up under, will determine how you fare out or how you not fare out in relationships going forward. Absolutely. And that's personally, from a personal standpoint, I find it to be true.
Wow, that's deep. I just want to cut in and introduce Lauren Ciandra. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on Current Exposure.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Observers, get into the comments. Feel free to ask questions, chime in about whether you've had healthy relationships, toxic relationships, and we can get into a whole discussion about how we move forward with the knowledge that we have and what we're going to get tonight, and having more healthier relationships with each other. So let's get on situationships.
Okay.
So you said that basically people's first relationships, the family, relationships in school, that shapes out how they're going to perform in relationships basically when they're an adult.
Right.
So how do these people create these situationships? Is this something that they learned in their childhood, or is this something that they learned socially to do, and it's, if everybody else is doing it, I'm doing it too type of thing? And why do certain generations do it more often than others? Like, for an example, my parents' generation, and they are Generation X, and their parents are like, they're like in between baby boomers and traditionalists, but their household stayed together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, millennials and the Gen Z, and then you got some Generation X, they got a kid for every child, or a mother for every child. You know, so many half siblings sets the kids in just relationship chaos all over the place, and situationships where people were living as if they have relationships and saying they're not relationships, but they're doing all relationship type of things. So yeah, let's get into that. And people, my observers, get into the comments too. So let's kick it off.
You asked a question, and you spanned at least like 3 or 4 generations in your question, and I'm glad that you did ask that, because it's not a question that I can answer like straightforward, but I'm going to do my best. One of the things that I want to come at you clinically, and then we're going to branch it out like a little tree. We're going to bring it out like a little tree. So clinically, what we've been taught, there's this theorist named Bowen. And when he came onto the scene, what he did was, he was like what Freud was. Everybody knows Sigmund Freud. So what Sigmund Freud was to the psychoanalytical world, this is what Bowen did for the family solutions. What he did was, his belief was that everything stems with the family, like I first mentioned. So one of the tools that we use as clinicians is that when we meet a person and if we want to look at their life from a family stance, we create this tree, and it's called a geniogram. And we ask you to go back. As now, you don't know some of the symbols and stuff. That's not your job to do. That's my job. So what you do is we ask you to sit down as one of the tools and write down, go back 3 generations. Bowen believed that if you go back at least 3 generations, which means you, your mother, your father, right? All that you can remember on both sides, their mother and father, both sides, paternal or maternal, and if you could do great grandparents, that would be great. But we ask for 3 generations, because what that does, that establishes some type of momentum and gives like a rhythm of rhyme, and gives the therapist an opportunity to see some type of consistency and or pattern, so to give a predictor to see where we're going in our therapy sessions. Like
Okay.
we could, and that tree could be used for anything. We could have like illicit drug usage. Did your mother and your father drink? Did your
Okay.
grandmother and grandfather drink? Then we could bring both of them sides together. Sometimes it could predetermine if your issues or your children's issues will be that of illicit drug usage and or dependency and chemical dependency and
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
yeah, it's really, really interesting. So I want to take that and I want to move over to what you talked about with the baby boomers and the Generation Zs and with regards to marriage. You can take that same template that I described and you can
Okay.
put it to the marriages to determine, what type of healthy relational dynamic you were raised under. Like if your mother and your father were married,
Right.
right, on either or both sides. If one side was marrying type folk, back in our day, they called them good stock, married type folk. And the
Okay.
other side was what you described as just, didn't get married, cheat, and there was whatever going on in the family.
Right.
Chances are you could land on either side because both sides of the family were not like married type folk, or both sides were
Wow.
not loose and wild. Does that make sense?
Wow.
So that tells you what type of. Now let's go back to the grandparents. Chances are, because they were from that era, the 50s, the 60s, the 40s, where there was marriage, and it was a belief in it. 9 times out of 10, those folks were married.
Right.
Right. And and anything after that, it was up in the air. The baby boomers who came along around about the time of Woodstock, free love, that's what they call peace, love, and hair groups, whatever. What they did was that was more freer. But those people before them were married folk. Like I know my grandmother, something happened, and now I'm giving you my personal experience. My grandmother was not married. My grandmother was also a drinker.
Okay.
Right? So my mother came along and she was not a married woman. She was married, but she wasn't married to my father.
Okay.
But my grandfather, paternal, and my paternal grandmother, they were married for several years, house together, fence, and everything.
Right.
See the example?
Yeah. Yeah.
See how?
Okay.
Right. But my mother and my father was not married.
Okay.
And it starts to get a little murky because a lot of things started to come into the socioeconomic mainstream around about the 70s and 80s. There was narcotics. Now narcotics was always here.
Right.
Alcohol was always here, but we were living in societies back in the 50s and 60s and the 40s and 30s where it was done in a way where there was a little bit of conservatism with it.
Okay.
70s it started coming, and as you
they
know,
they were functional basically.
Right. And what happens in the 70s and 80s, this. Alcohol and drugs lower inhibitions. And what happens is you start to enter into relations, not relationships.
Right.
Into relations.
Okay.
Are a little bit wanton, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
All over the place. People are all over the place. It's so many different dynamics. Thank you for asking this, Ms. Thomas, because there's so many different dynamics. We will be talking about this all night. Socioeconomic, changing of the times, even what we're on right now, social media.
Right.
Like different shift in society and how women's live and how the things that were allowed and tolerated back then just weren't allowed then that is being acceptable right now. And by societies. And not to say that it's wrong, it's just saying that this is where we are as a society.
Okay.
Was it, a lot of times people ask, was it Pandora's box open, gone awry?
Okay. Okay.
Some things should have been left alone. Not, listen, I'm for liberal. I'm for the liberal being liberal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some parts of me that's still conservative because of how I was reared.
Okay, got you.
There
That's
was
like a gay couple being married. Like it's
Right.
the conservative part is the marriage, but the liberal part is the fact that it's two same sex or same
Right.
gender individuals. Okay.
And I'm a liberal person. Listen, you deserve, everybody deserves to be happy.
Right.
Liberal,
As long as it's consensual too.
right.
Let's put
Now,
that out there because I don't agree with no marriages to kids.
right. Now
That's disgusting.
that's the liberal part of me. Right.
Okay.
And but the conservative part of me, there's still this little girl, Sunday school, right?
Okay.
Prayer, you know, and what God said in the Bible about procreation and Adam and Eve.
Okay.
We can't, that's what we were talking about at the top of this feed when we were talking about like the family being the cornerstone of our relationships and teaching us how to do what it is we do when we go out into the world.
Okay.
That makes sense?
That makes sense. So now with you saying that, with these situations, with these situationships going on and people saying that I hear a lot about there's piss in a dating pool or something to that effect where people are afraid to date and meet other people because they keep getting wrapped up in these relations instead of relationships. And hear what you're saying. Are you telling me these are people whose they're coming from families that are in shambles?
Well, you know what? It's not so much as being in shambles. People teach you and you learn, you get from your family what they learned.
Okay.
It's
so
not what it was normal. Like if someone
okay.
told you, let's say your shirt right now is black.
Right.
And
Definitely
everybody,
black.
the shirt that you have on is black. And everybody in your family and your mom even told you black is the right way to go. Always
Okay.
black shirts, never, and she gave you plausible foundation based on her experience as to why to wear black shirts all times, no matter what. And you go out into the world like that, and you find out you got Lauren over here who has on a gray colored shirt, and that would blow your mind. Mm-hmm. So now
right.
you go out and make decisions for yourself. Like, what do you want to do once you become your own adult? And I use that as the most basic, simple premise because that's exactly what happens when you get out into the world. What you've learned in your family, you may have to unlearn.
Right.
Oh, right. Like, let's get into it.
Right.
So you telling me they gotta unlearn?
Giving you the information that was given to them. Are they
okay?
No, they just simply getting what they got and they're giving it to you. If it was good enough for like that church song used to go, if it was good enough for my grandmama, it's good enough for me. And
okay,
it's good enough for my child.
Hold on.
I didn't die tutelage, so she won't die either. So you're basically just getting a rudimental instrument to go out into the world that is light years away from what you learned.
So you telling me people can't give budgets when they take these women out on dates? They need to unlearn that?
Sometimes, I mean, depending on
when they go to Applebee's and say it's $30, you better not go over $30.
It depends on your situation, and that's the thing. I don't know if you saw the series Peaky Blinders.
No, I haven't.
Well, there's an Aunt Polly, and she's passed on. Rest in peace, of Aunt Polly. But she was telling the main character, and she was saying, "Never ever punch above your weight." Right, and what that means is that don't go out into charted waters that you know you can't swim in. Like when we
Right.
to these relationships, a lot of times,
Compatibility. Like I feel like I shouldn't be involved with anyone who don't have a good relationship with their parents, or that their parents.
value system, and that's
Right.
exactly what I was getting to. Like, don't go into situations when you start, because there are things called little things like precursors, like
Right. Red flags.
red flags. You start to see some things, and it's important when you're getting into relationships, and not just intimate. I'm saying relationships with a girlfriend. If I want to be friends with Lauren, or if I want to be friends with you,
You gotta be bougie to be friends with Lauren. You gotta be bougie.
Now, my responsibility is to scan myself for my value system.
Yeah.
To determine what I'm looking for in a girlfriend, right?
To be in alignment.
And see if she and I match up.
Right.
And it's important that over a period of time, every relationship you're dating in. No, we're not trying to be intimate physically, but emotionally, we want to see if we're matched up right. It's me and Laura. I love education. I love schooling. I know what I like to do. I want a whole bunch of alphabets at the end of my name. That's me personally.
Okay.
Lauren may be okay with beauty.
Right.
She may be okay with, culture, the whole culture of beauty. There's nothing wrong with that. She may say, well, Tisha, I think it's superficial that you want all them names. You want some old ego tripping stuff. No, it's not ego tripping. We're just determining
we're not in alignment.
Able to be friends.
Now, why do people force those type of friendships then? Like what you just said, like you like what you like, she likes what she likes, and then because I want Lauren to tell her story too, because she did a post on Instagram about people calling her bougie. And I thought it was like I thought it was something that hit home, like, wow, like, and it sounded like the people were being mean, and I'm like, why would you?
I try to stay away from labels.
Right. So it's like, yeah, like these are people she's around, and I'm like, why would you want to be around people if you want to label them such, and in a way that, like she said, if it came off with a negative connotation, like it wasn't a compliment.
Right. No, what happens a lot of times is, we're still developing. And until what I found out with me through my evolutionary process, because aside from going to school, and I want to mention this is the grail that we as clinicians,
DSM-5, right.
And every few years they
update it and
upgrade it, because what's socially acceptable and clinically acceptable 5 years ago won't be acceptable 10 years from now.
Right.
Like, alcoholic was the term that was used 10 years ago.
Now we have to say what? Substance abuse victim?
Right, exactly.
We can't say crackhead.
Right.
Fiend.
Right. Because what happens, those labels they're so antiquated now. Right. And then see, dealing with the family systems, there's some things that we can't use anymore. Names we can't use anymore.
So what about bougie though? What about your friends calling you bougie?
Bougie was never in the DSM. We got a way to,
Oh, that's just black people making up stuff. Oh,
but the term that we would use now that's akin to bougie, because bougie means this. Now we got the term now, the clinical term called narcissism, and it's so overused now.
It is overused.
Very overused. Somebody called me a narcissist, and I said, what are you a licensed therapist? No, you're just. I
Overused. It's
said, okay, so you
overused.
don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
It's overused. In
And
our
if
society, it's overused, and it's so overused. So what I want to say to you, because I don't want to take up all the time, I'm really interested in hearing Lauren's story, is that there's so many different variables and facets to how we
Mhm.
end up in these relationships the way that we do, but the most important thing that I want people to walk away with is that when moving forward, we're not saying that what you got was toxic or traumatic, and some stuff has been, and that's for you
Mhm.
to determine when you get with your professional and you
Mhm.
guys sit down and you do that tree that we talked about, that Geneagram. You start to
Mhm.
delve into the tools and do that work. I had a therapist one time, because in order for me to be able to see you on one side of the couch, I had to know what it was like to be on one
On the
side of the
couch. Right.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
powerful,
awesome.
very powerful. I got to know what it feels like. So I had
Right.
a therapist one time tell me that all roads lead back home.
Oh, so
You're
what if?
home. You are home. Each
Mm,
one of you, each one of us on the screen, each one of your listeners, they are home. Wherever, if you see yourself, this is the litmus test I want to give you and all of your um, subscribers. If you look back at your past 3 relationships, like we said,
mhm.
go back three generations. Look back at your past 3 relationships.
That's a lot of relationships.
Right. But look back at your past 3 relationships. If in your past 3 relationships, there is a pattern, whether it's
Mm,
physical, a guy that just like, you always seem to attract a guy that like to get busy with his hands. Every
okay.
time he raised his hand, he wasn't doing it to scratch his head. He was doing it to, put hands on you.
Right.
All roads lead back to home. It's not him, it's you.
Oh.
If you got somebody in your life, you meet a person and you find that they are selfish, and that selfishness bled over from one relationship to another, and that person was always taking from you, it was just a different face but the same behavior. There's nothing wrong with those 3 people, especially if they continue on with the behavior. They have to stop when they're ready to stop. But if you notice it for you, all roads lead back home.
That's true.
Wow. Wow. Diana Rashawn said, this is good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Take a look at your pattern. Take a look at, become life literate for yourself.
That's good.
Okay.
Look at, you know how you read a book? Remember when we was
Right.
in grade school and we had to read the book to not just read it, but comprehend it?
Comprehend it.
Until
Right.
you can learn to read and comprehend your life just
That's
by
good.
looking back at your family systems.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about trauma stuff, because some people have had some real hardcore trauma, molestations, rapes.
Right.
That's not for me to get into on this segment. I can always come back another time. We can talk more hardcore. But
Right.
for the light, and I don't even want to say the light stuff, because some being selfish and taking from a person, that's pretty heavy core stuff. But if you have those things and you look and you see some patterns, you have a responsibility. If you feel like you're broken, you have the responsibility to pick up the pieces and fix whatever it is that you say is broken.
True.
Wow. Wow.
Before
So
I
that
close,
and that goes to that self-love. And Lauren, I want you to talk about that, your self-love journey.
You want to start.
And what took you on this self-love journey of, being more involved in more healthy relationships and less toxic situationships, or people labeling you something that you don't feel you are.
Yeah.
And you don't appreciate it either as a compliment.
Yeah.
So go ahead, get into it.
So I want to go back to touch base on situationships and how Ms. Glover was talking about it does start at the family and then socioeconomics and things change over time. What I'm finding as a millennial is the things that were valued in older times, the things that my parents valued, the things that my grandparents and great grandparents valued is not as valuable today to my generation. I'm not saying that it's not valuable, but the amount of value we placed on it has
diminished,
has went down drastically. I believe that my parents or my grandparents, my great grandparents were together because they valued marriage. They valued the home system. They believed we should have a 2-family home, and our children should grow up together. And there was a village, and there was this, and then you get down to my grandparents who were married, but by the time I came along, were not. So that's not really nothing I can speak off of. But my mom and my aunts grew up in that household until they separated, and then you have me, who I come from a background of non-marriage. My mom and my dad are not married, never have been. So the way I see things are a little bit different. And like you said, sometimes you can see it and say, you want to be that. Right? Some people will see it and say, I don't want to be that. Right? Depend on how you see it. Was it a positive marriage? Was it a not so positive marriage? That will determine whether you want to be married or not. If you haven't seen it, you can go either way. But I think it's harder because if you haven't seen it, you don't have anything to go from.
You have no reference, basically.
I don't have a reference. So I can't go to my parents about marriage because they weren't married. I can't, even if I go to my grandparents or my grandmother for marriage, she can only tell me up to a point. Right? So in my generation now, marriage is completely invaluable. And I think the other thing that has lessened value is accountability. And responsibility. And that's where you get situationships. The definition of situationship in my generation is being able to be exclusive with someone without having the title. And so if we don't value each other first, if we don't value ourselves, I don't feel the need to attach myself to you as far as the responsibility part is concerned.
But that sounds empty.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem that way, of course, in the beginning. But down the road, and like Ms. Glover said too, it's also about intention, and it's about compatibility and really what you want from a person. If a person is very clear that I don't want to be with you, 9 times out of 10, their stance is not going to change. If whether you want it to change, whether you're doing everything in your power to change it, if that person has told you first date, first few conversations, I don't want a relationship, please do not expect a relationship, because that's not what they want, nor do they value it enough. I've had several people tell me that we're in a situationship, meaning we can be exclusive, but I'm not your girlfriend, you're not my boyfriend. But that gets tricky because they want you to do relationship things. But not wanting the accountability of the relationship, in my opinion, which is the title. Because until somebody can firmly say, Lauren, you're my girlfriend, I'm single. But if I have let it go on for so long, then what you'll think is I now devalue the trueness of a relationship or the responsibility of the title. And so when you finally come to yourself, when you finally have this self-love aha Buddha moment, now to the other person, you're messing up the feng shui. What happened? This was cool. We've been doing this for a year. We've been doing this for 2 years. Why all of a sudden titles is so important? What they failed to realize is this was something that was always important to you. However, sometimes when it comes down to self-love, we don't love each other. We don't love ourselves enough to be able to speak our truth. And so we begin to put somebody else ahead of us. And then in the end, it comes down to now it's detrimental. Now we're heartbroken. Now we're sad. We're hurt because we weren't able to speak up for ourselves in the beginning. I saw something that said the red flag you see in the beginning is going to be the same red flag that makes you leave in the end. And so I think it's just a matter of us really being honest with ourselves, loving
Right.
ourselves enough to say, you know what, he's cute, she's cute, but are we compatible? And
Right.
do I love myself enough that if we're not compatible, I can walk away?
Because they
I've
can be
shared,
cute and be a monster, a whole monster.
right. And I've shared with Thomas multiple times that I have superhero syndrome, where I feel like I can save a person, where I feel like I listen to change, not necessarily listening to understand. So if you say something like, "Hey, I don't want a relationship," I take it as a challenge. I don't take it as we're not compatible because I want one and you don't.
Right.
So I think that has been one of the things that over these past few months to a year that I have acknowledged about myself. Um, so going into self-love, I think it really is important that you practice self-love, because the way you see things will change. You become self-aware about yourself. And I do believe that the things that you allow, the relationships that you allow, whether they're platonic or, relationship together, it really stems from how you feel about yourself. And so if I'm operating in a place of lack, it's because I'm with this person because I think this is all that's out there, or because I think this is all that I can have.
Oh.
Which would be the reason why you stay so long. Sometimes we already know that this is not the person. Sometimes we already know this is going to go left. This is not going to end well. But do I love myself enough to say, you know what, this ain't it, and something better is out there? Or do I believe that I just operate from a space of lack? And so I'm just going to keep this.
Complacent. That
They're
that
complacent.
and to me, that's where the toxicity comes in,
For
because
sure.
you start hating being in that situation.
Yep.
You start hating like the things about the person, but you're still there, and then the both of you are tearing each other down
Yep.
to the point where you're depleting each other and it either ends at one point because somebody eventually leaves the other person, or something happens, somebody moves away.
Yep.
But you're no better for the next person.
Right.
So, and that right there is like a lot of the situations I see too, where people, they fall in love, they have a baby with this person, it don't work out, they fall in love again, have a baby with that person, it doesn't work out.
Is it love?
And we just said that today.
That's a good point. It's not love.
Now,
They fall into relations.
Yeah.
right now, from a professional standpoint, let's say what the scenario you just used. This is what we do clinically. You meet this person, and let's say you're learning to be life literate. Lauren just described her scenario. She's learning to be life literate. She has this baby with this guy that she loved. Loved. I mean, with her soul.
Yeah.
All four chambers of her heart. Right?
Oh, okay.
That's right. All four.
Right. Stood on business. 10 toes down, arches flat. Right?
Like on the pavement? Flat on the pavement?
Yes, baby. Yes. Bare feet. And you have this baby. You create this life. Right?
Right.
And after it's all over, said and done, you realize those red flags that Lauren was talking about, the same red flags she picked up, she made this baby with, is the same red flags that was at the end, ushering her into the finish line, singlehood.
But is she wrong for wanting to save him?
No, you never, like I said, there's no wrong way when you don't know the way. But once you wake up a way, and you say, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And you see those, you see those patterns that I was talking about. Now it's time to intervene. As an African-American community, I don't mean to single out any particular race, but I'm African-American, so I have to speak from my African-American experience.
I woke up black this morning, so I'm black with you.
Every day.
So the African-American experience is that we are very hesitant to go into get some help.
That's true.
Couples therapy?
experience, Lauren, with this baby, with this guy, 10 toes down, arches flat, 4 chambers of your heart, poured your soul, gave the best years of your life and your womb.
Gave the best eggs out of your ovaries.
Right. So now you done did all this and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
That has to be a life-changing, life-altering, traumatic experience.
For sure.
Yeah, that's heavy. That's heavy.
So now, why not give yourself a break by stepping back and saying something's not great, something's not good here. There's nothing wrong with the life that I gave into the world, because there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something wrong that I don't want to pass down to this seed.
Right.
So now, why don't I go speak to a professional about some of this stuff? Because I'm not necessarily broken, but let me take my pieces and move them around and make them a nice mosaic.
Okay, I like that.
And I want to say too,
that's
like
accountability, right?
For sure.
Right.
And the way that I took accountability was I did seek out a therapist.
Right.
Because I did realize there's a pattern. It was so funny, like you said, your 3 past relationships, because literally my 3 past relationships had all been the same. And so I'm like, okay, it's not y'all. Apparently I'm doing something wrong, or I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing. And when I sat down with my therapist, she said 2 things that really got to me. She said, number 1, you don't leave when you're supposed to leave because you're too busy trying to make them see your point. And she told me, you have made your non-negotiables preferences.
Ooh.
I will never forget the day she told me that. And I thought I knew the difference. And when she broke it down to me, she said, no, Lauren. She said, your non-negotiables are things where if you say this and they say the opposite, you need to walk away. Your preferences is if you say this and they say something else, it'll be like, okay, cool. If I want a 6-foot chocolate man as a non-negotiable, I should not be talking to a 5'3" light-skinned man. If my preference is a 6-foot chocolate man, but a 5'3" light-skinned man comes along, then that's my preference. It has not made me leave. She said, the problem with you is you made a lot of your non-negotiables preferences. And so now you don't know the difference. And she said the only difference between a preference and a non-negotiable is whether you walk away or not.
Okay.
If you don't walk away from something, you have now made it a preference. If you want to date somebody with kids and you date somebody and they say, I don't want any kids, and you don't walk away, you have now made it a preference. And so I said, okay, got me right together. Cool. And she said, you don't always have to justify why you're leaving. You don't always have to stay till the end. You don't always have to make them see your point. If you already know in your heart that this is not it, you should be able to get up and go and walk away knowing that you gave your best.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And that, again, is what has made me see relationships in a different light, because I also shared with Thomas, this is not the first time that I've been called bougie, uppity, better, whatever. And I am the furthest thing from. However, I am not one to settle. I am not one to just take anything. And I think people, like narcissism, people have overly used and misused the word.
Right.
Because people are now using bougie to describe people who just have a basic standard about themselves.
Yes.
I also believe that it depends, like Ms. Glover said, on upbringing. There are some things that you may think I'm bougie for that you either have not been able to experience in your upbringing, which then makes you feel like I'm better for not wanting what you offer.
Right.
You thinking that because this is your 100% that I should take it because it's your 100. Absolutely disagree. If we're not compatible, your 100 is not going to be my 100. And if I love myself, I shouldn't feel like I have to stay because this is your 100. If I love myself, I don't feel like I should have to stay because you're giving me your all. You could absolutely be giving me your all. But if your all and my all don't match, if we're not compatible in allness, if you will, we're going to run into something, which is what I was explaining on my video, because there are a lot of people who I can only speak for me. Anybody who has ever called me any of those things were people who I was incompatible with. people where I was in a different stance, I was in a different level that could not keep up, or we just were in two different styles. And one of the reasons why I would stay longer than I should is because I never gave myself the okay that I couldn't not handle, that I couldn't relate, or the okay that, I understand that this is your lifestyle, but it's not mine. I always stayed because I was always looking at it from perspective of, if it was me, I would want somebody to stay. If it was me, I would want somebody to have the same grace. If it was me, I would want somebody to understand, and this is my 100%. But it really took a lot of prayer and a lot of work with my therapist to understand that you can understand somebody's situation, but you don't have to stay because of it. And since now knowing that, it has been a little bit easier. I always talk about on Instagram my soft life journey or my self-love journey, because I'm not one to come on like I've apprehended it all, because I haven't. These are things that I'm still learning. But having learned those things, it has been a little bit easier for me to walk away. It has been a little bit easier for me to be able to say, hey, I know we've been together for X amount of time. We've been talking for 10 months. We've been talking for a year and a half.
Right.
But now, this is not enough, and it's never been enough. That's the hard part.
Right.
Not that it's not enough now, but to really hone in and say, from day one, it's never been enough.
Right.
But I didn't know how to say that, because instead of me putting my feelings first, I didn't want to hurt yours, which then in turn hurt mine. Does that make sense?
What do you say to something like that, Miss Glover? Like where you hurt yourself because you don't want to hurt the other person. You know, like you bringing down your standards because that person doesn't have any standards, or their standards are not the same.
Well, what happens a lot of times is that it all goes back to the cornerstone of the family and learned behaviors.
Okay.
We learn this, and it gets interwoven into our character, into our personality, into our emotional DNA, so to speak.
Okay.
And in order to be able to spot it, so to speak, you have to become what we call emotionally intelligent. And that happens by going and seeking out the assistance of a professional who can help you do that. Yes, like leaving it to, I'm not going to do that next time. I'm going to learn better from this next time and not do it.
You got to learn how to not do it.
That's part of it. That's one part of it.
Okay.
Learn from your mistakes. Absolutely. That's one part of it. But the other part is, because this stuff is so intertwined into our emotional, psychological, and spiritual DNA even, is so intertwined, we need help with trying to move around that stuff. And either remove it, take it out, and discard it because it's no good, and unlearn those behaviors, because it takes just as much energy to unlearn a habit than it is to learn it.
I think it takes more. Yeah.
Wow.
Probably even more. It takes more energy to undo something than to do it.
So basically, the dating pool, what did they say? That it's piss in the dating pool because fentanyl, all this stuff in the toxic dating pool, because people have work to do and they haven't done the work, but they're constantly jumping from one relationship to the next.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
What if you took? What would it look like? We have this thing in the therapeutic world, the magic question. What would it look like if, after every relationship that you were in that did not end as you thought it ought to have, right? Or even on favorable terms, so to speak, I wonder what it would look like. This is the magic question. I wonder what it would look like if, in between that, you stopped and got a therapist and got a professional to help you put anything together. Give yourself 6 months.
Okay.
Saying that you'll get everything that you need to get in that 6 months, but give yourself a window period, 6 months, a year, to go and do some really, really soul searching and good therapeutic work before you moved into the next relationship. I wonder what that would look like. I wonder with the dating pool, the fentanyl and the piss and all that stuff that you mentioned. I wonder if it would clear the pool up a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think it would. I want to ask Ms. Glover.
Date budgets.
I want to ask Ms. Glover, how do you deal with evolving while still with the person? Meaning,
who's not evolving?
No, who's not evolving, yes, but I'm saying if you're trying to do the work for yourself, right?
Oh, okay.
So if I, for example, if Thomas was with the person in January,
right,
and starting March, she started therapy. And she realized over time, over her therapy sessions, I thought I liked this person.
Right.
Or the way I now see them is different. How do you navigate that? Because now I'm looking at me in another light. I'm looking at you in another light. I'm looking at the relationship in another light. And we've been together for 2-3 months. And now after seeking out a therapist, I don't know if I want to stay here.
Right.
How do
you know,
with that?
hold up. You don't want to stay there. If you don't know you don't want to stay there, you don't want to stay there.
But what if you didn't know until you sought out therapy?
Right. Now what happens is when with therapy is, yes, once the, how do they say it? Once the light is turned on, you can't turn it back off.
You can't,
right. Some of the exposure that light brings to situations, you can't see some unseen.
Right.
Yep.
You can't unsee it anymore. Yep. So now what happens in these relationships? You're in a relationship, it's committed, you guys have been together, just painting a scenario. And then somebody says, I'm going to therapy because it's not you, it's me. The proverbial, it's not you, it's me. And you go to therapy and you're getting all these different doors are flying open and you're like, wow. And you're looking at the relationship like, wow, I don't think I need to be here. How do you broach the conversation with your partner? It's about open communication. This is how you find out what type of relationship you have. When you go to that partner, that lover, that boo, or whatever the titles are now, and you say, listen, this is what's been happening to me. And I'm looking at our relationship like this. And I'm talking about a lot of times with relationships, it's called vulnerability. You go into these relationships and at some point you're going to have to take off everything in front of this person. And the naked you that they saw in the beginning, because of what you're talking about, the truth you're speaking, what you're picking up along the way, they may not like the naked you that they see.
It could be scary. I think it could. I think like I've been in a situation like that, and I think it's scary to the person. And
but is it more scarier to you because you've been in this relationship so long, or you've been in whatever period of time it is, it's become a habit. This relationship has been something you can rely on, whether it be financially, emotionally, whatever. This person has been an emotional crutch, financial. He's half on a rent. She's half on a rent. You could pay in a landlord before you pay your half. Whatever it is, I'm not here to judge.
Right.
But are you more afraid? Because what may come out of it, you may hear something that you may not be ready to hear.
That's true.
Oh,
that's true.
So this is where relationships get tricky at. But always, and I say this as a professional, a clinical, like it's so important that people go into relationships, and I do pre-relationship counseling.
Right.
Pre-marriage counseling.
Wow.
That's important.
Listen,
I see how important that is now, like after living my life and going through so much BS with
it's
people.
Worth the investment.
And feeling like, at that point, like, okay, if we're going to salvage this, we need to go see a third party, a therapist to help us work through this stuff because we're not doing it on our own. This stuff is heavy, and for me, like, I'm all for therapy, but it seems like everybody don't want to do that kind of work.
Correct.
And they don't know. A lot of times, Miss Thomas, they don't know. Did you know that there's pre-relationship counseling?
Yeah, I know. Well, I know now, like
Well,
after
people
I've
say
been through so
pre-marriage.
much,
People say
you know,
pre-marriage because marriage is so
That's
serious.
true. They do say that more often
right.
than
They say
pre-relationship.
pre-marriage, but did you know that if you meet this person, Lauren, if you meet this person, Shakima, if you meet this person, Ramona, whoever's in the chat,
Yeah,
like,
Ramona, yeah, saying you don't want to lose the person you learn to love and know so much. And
right,
yeah,
but before you get to that point, why not invest in 3 to 4 to 6 solid good sessions where a professional could help you determine, and at the end of that 6 sessions, you'll know what you need to know and get that therapist, and you could do whatever you want to do after that.
right.
But you will have an idea of what you have on the road ahead in 6 sessions before you go into 6 months and 6 years and
yeah, or you know,
investment.
10 years and
10 years and 4 kids later.
And you like, I really don't like this person.
Right.
Or
this is a horrible individual.
Or know them.
Yeah. Or they don't know you.
That's true.
You wake up one day.
Or how about you evolved through that whole time and they didn't.
Right.
So there's pre-relationship counseling.
Okay.
I love doing that because that's letting you know. And then if there's something that needs to be tweaked out, then we can branch off into individual counseling. If you guys want to stay together and you want to work things out, we got couples counseling. Right. There's so many different ways we could go about this thing, but you don't have to go it alone.
Okay. So people... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I really haven't heard of pre-relational counseling. It's always pre-marriage.
I've heard of the pre-relationship. Yeah.
I guess what pre-relational counseling is what we would call the talking stage.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah,
which is
but
not
still,
the same.
yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah, but yeah, I got you.
But there's a lot of tools that therapist can use that will like get you guys both to draw up your geogram tree. We use a whole session and we stand them up side by side. We talk about value systems. We start to see, well, what's going on, Lauren? Over here, you got that your mom and dad was married. Joe, the guy you're going out with, right? This is my other hand. Joe, none of his family members were married, and he's saying that, you know, when you ask him about it, he's like, he could do without it. It's like the little sprinkles on a cone. He could do without it. He could do the vanilla ice cream.
Wow.
But
that's definite. Yeah. That's where the incompatibility stuff will be exposed.
Right.
So
and you don't have to wait years later.
Right. Why would you want to know that in 6 sessions? And we're talking about inside of a month and a half.
Now, what about people that's like, oh, I don't feel like I need that. We don't need somebody that don't know neither one of us, like we know each other, coming in and telling us how to live our lives and da 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 da.
Well, my clinical training has taught me that if you are able to, we learn how to, in my training, we've learned how to read, not just read, but comprehend. We listen for not just what you say, but what you don't say.
Yes.
Body language. This is what the training does for you. A trained clinician, and I'm saying good, properly trained. That 6 sessions that I told you about with pre-counseling, if we hit the ground running and you come in the room and you, Lauren, or you, Miss Thomas, or whoever is in the chat, if you come in with an open mind and an open heart and you ready to work and your boots are on the ground, I could get what I need in 3 sessions. Okay. We don't even need to waste a whole bunch of money and time. So if
Okay.
you saying that, why do I need this person or this, just come to the session with an open mind.
Okay.
Bring the body, the rest will follow.
Okay.
That's
And
good.
you give a good clinician, and I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about a good clinician. 3 good sessions, all you need them to do is scratch the surface for you.
That's true.
Wow.
That's true. I think people
Wow.
choose therapy when they're ready to see themselves.
Okay.
I
Right.
think when you're ready to say, hey,
Okay.
you know what? This is something that has been going on. This is a pattern. And, it's not the same face, but it's the same scenario. It's obviously something wrong with me. But until you're ready to confront, hey, something is wrong with me, you're not going to seek out therapy. And one of the things that I did learn is, therapists, they never pin it on the other person.
No.
Your therapy session is always about you. You can
Wow.
talk to them for 30 minutes about one person, and what they're going to say at the end of that is, so what are you going to do about it?
Ooh.
Why have you stayed so long? What was your take in it?
Ooh.
And so I think therapy is good when you're ready to take accountability. You have to reach, I believe you have to reach a certain point in life when you're like, okay, this is enough.
Right.
I know it's me. I need help here. I just don't know how to do it. But I think the first step is being able to say, you know what, I'm ready to take accountability for what is continuously happening. But a lot of people are not ready to see themselves because they're going to go in therapy like I did with the blame game. Until you be like, you know what,
So wait.
it's not me, it's you. I mean, it's not you, it's me.
So you went in like this person did this, that, and that to me.
Yeah, I went in, this person did this. Oh, I feel away because this person made me feel like da 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 da. And she was like, okay, and what'd you
So
do?
she just basically held the mirror up, like.
Of course. What'd you do?
Right.
And a lot of it was,
Wow, that's
did they make you feel
self-reflection.
this way, or are you portraying them in the way? Because a lot of the stuff you feel away about, they probably even know you feel away about it. Have you sat down and talked to them to say, even that's accountability. Even if you feel away about a person, have you taken the time
Right.
to sit down and tell them you feel away? And if you haven't did that, again, this is not about them, it's about you.
And that's how the toxicity festers in relationships.
Yep.
Like I had this I was dating someone and they were a mind reader. Yeah. They were a mind. Yeah. Yes. Yes, like how you were saying how you would take something, a person would do something, I would do something, and then they would tell me why I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Without asking me why I did it.
Mm.
And they would be completely off. And they would say I made them feel uncomfortable because the intent was whatever they made up in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I was being sarcastic when I said they were a mind reader.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because I feel like if you could read my mind, what's going to be the 5, the 6 numbers I need to play in this lottery?
Right.
It will be good.
We'll be good to go.
Because you know everything on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we would get into arguments and like unhappy spaces because of that. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, I was shut down too. Mm-hmm. That was my part that made it toxic and worse because now I felt like, well, I'm not gonna talk to you and tell you what I meant.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let you keep thinking that. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't back then thinking I'm making it just as bad as the mind reader.
Right.
And just letting it fester until it happens again. Mm-hmm. And the same thing kept happening in that relationship. The same thing kept happening over and over. And I would be like, I thought this was old. I thought we dealt with that.
Right.
You're still mad about that?
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 months later. Mm-hmm. But when I shut down, then, it would pop out because the conversation was never finished.
It was never finished, right.
And that person would forget. We would be happy for, 2 months. Then, boom, it comes back up.
Pop out again, yep.
And yeah, I was doing the same thing too, blaming the person.
Mm-hmm.
You keep bringing up old stuff. Till I realized, well, you shut down. You never
Right. You never
communicated. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just as unhealthy.
It is.
But it took therapy for me to realize that I was doing that.
I want to say,
I
want to get I don't know if I want to say spicy, but like another take on it. Do you think validation has a lot to do with relationships?
With regards to what? Give me a little bit more content.
Okay, so I want to bring compatibility into it as well. When I say validation, what I mean is, do you think sometimes we stay, even if we're staying with somebody beneath our standards, because we are trying to prove to them by validation that we're worth it?
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh.
Absolutely. There are a lot
That's a good one.
I actually worked with a couple of couples where that was the whole production.
Oh, wow.
That was the main character on the stage. Validation.
Oh.
And that's because from one of the persons or both, validation was what they were seeking from their childhood. From their parents.
Oh.
That was one scenario.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah. Validation is a very, very is a recurring theme in a lot of relational and clinical settings that I've worked with. Validation is yes, you brought up a very, very good point. And for those of you who are listening, like when she's speaking about validation, you know, look at yourself when you're going into these interactions and ask yourself that question. Am I seeking validation from this person because of something that was voided from within me, from my childhood, from my high school years?
Yeah.
I counseled somebody who wanted to be a basketball player. He became a basketball player, but he wanted to be like the big guy.
Yeah.
Okay, the superstar. Okay.
He wanted to be he wanted to be the one putting the numbers on the board.
He wanted to be the Michael Jordan.
Right, but he wasn't. He was the guy who was in the back who,
okay,
you know, rode the bench most of the games and then in the game. And that, you would not believe how those moments in our youth, in our teen years, in our young adult years drive the vehicle of our intimate relationships when we start to get into womanhood and manhood. That validation.
Wow.
Take a look at that, guys. It's so important, because when you're sitting on that couch or sitting in that chair or on the ottoman or however it is you do what you do, the only thing that I'm asking you to do is, if you recognize you need help, get it, right? Validation. Look to, even if you decide not to go to therapy, right? Look to that before you go into your next relationship.
Now, I want to ask you a question from my personal experience. What I've seen is, not only have I dated people, you know, who I felt as though were beneath standards, you know, I want this, they don't want this, and things, not just materialistic financially, but we don't want the same things. I felt as though those were the people who I was seeking validation from. So why is it that we seek validation from people who we already are incompatible with? Why
who are not giving that effort
to stay with them, whether, you know, than to find somebody who I don't have to prove myself to?
Right. So a lot of times, like I said, when we're dealing with, there's another term we use. It's called pathology, and pathology is the study of sickness.
Okay.
Right. So you know where I'm going with this, right, Ms. Thomas?
Yeah.
I see your face.
Like, yeah,
So
yeah. I know a little bit, a little DSM
psychology is the
five.
study of
Or,
sickness, and one area of clinical studies speaks to that. Like it speaks to like when you're broken in a place, when you're broken in a place, when you have a fracture or a break, right? And you're trying to get it mended,
Mm-hmm.
because breaks are painful.
Mm-hmm.
We all agree.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
you have a broken arm, broken leg, when it's time to reset that thing, even if you're going to a doctor, we're not
Yeah.
talking about like, sitting somewhere in the back of a car trying to reset it yourself. We're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about that. I'm talking about
yeah.
even if
Right.
you go to a professional, when they go to reset it, it's pain.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everybody that I've worked with, they do not like pain.
right.
That speaks to emotional and mental and psychological as well, spiritual too. Nobody wants pain. So what they'll do is you'll seek out that doctor who will tell you, you'll go to each doctor who will tell you it's not going to hurt.
Oh,
Validation is the same way. Validation speaks to, I don't care who tells me it, just somebody tell me it.
wow.
And it could be the person that you don't even match up with. You like red, they like blue. You're on your way up. They're all right being down.
Okay.
You're going left, they're going right. If that person going left tells you, hey, you're going right, that's the wrong way, come this way, and you're going to be all right, them you hearing that you're going to be all right is validation.
Okay.
You know you won't be all right going to the left.
Wow.
That
Wow.
He said, "Wow, too." Right, right.
Study your pathology.
So what would they be validating? The fact that you don't feel all right?
Well, no, what they would be validating is, first of all, the person that's telling you to go left. Let's just straighten this out. The person that's telling you to go left, and you know that you need to be going right. The first thing, like you said, your therapist, the first person that needs to have a mirror up to them is you, because you know you should be going right, and you're going left. Or you may not even know it because you're emotionally invested in this situation.
Ooh, that's like, wow, hold up. So the emotions
Right.
have your mind, your brain inhibited, like as if you're on drugs.
Right. So you know you should be going right.
Okay.
It was in your upbringing to go right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your grandfather taught you to go right.
Yeah.
But you don't met this person, you're emotionally invested for whatever reason. We don't need to go into why. It just is. And you're going left. The problem isn't the person, it's you. That person already is right. They're right because, gosh darn it, they say they are. And their job is to convince you to go their way, not so much as to validate you, but it's about ego. So there's so many different variables moving on that question. That's a very good question, Lauren. There's so many different validation. It's like it's a sickness. It's, not just even validation. It's a couple of other things that go into it that fall into pathology that we studied as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just looking for somebody to tell you it's not going to hurt.
Knowing.
It's going
to hurt.
Right.
Wow.
See? Oh, man. That made me think.
Yeah.
That's like people, the minimum effort thing that we talked about earlier too. We know is the person is not giving effort.
But or very minimal.
Right.
Just enough to get them in the door.
Yeah.
Right. And we still hold on to the person like, all right, any day now, the big effort is coming. It's going to be big. It never comes.
Don't ever come. Why
Did you say it's going to be big?
Yeah. Because, me putting my personal experiences out there. That's what I thought. Like, okay,
Right.
all right. They did something major yesterday, so maybe tomorrow.
Right, it's coming.
It's yeah. Got good news. Got a new job.
Don't ever
You know, and then the effort never arrives. And you can have conversations too about the effort. Okay, when are we gonna do this? When are we going to do that? You
And
know,
then the conversation is, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's coming.
right.
Or
So
why are you bothering me like this? Come on.
yes,
You knew who I was when you met me.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And a lot of times that blatant slap in the face, the last one.
Yeah, like wow. It's like I really don't know you.
It's at a level of comfortability and it's on autopilot and it's only going to crash and burn from there.
Oh, yep.
Wow.
Yep. And like you said, I do think it is a slap in the face because all they're doing is reiterating what they already told you.
Right.
And so now you're the one feeling dumb because you really got to look back and be like, you know what, they did tell me that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what, either what they said or what they didn't say.
So how many times will you get slapped in the face?
Enough is enough.
And now we're not even talking about verbal abuse where you could go down to 212 and get a, you know.
Right. A restraining order.
Talking about, you can't get a restraining order for emotional.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right about that.
Able to, but you can't get emotional. You can't get a restraining order for emotional.
That got to be fought from within here.
Right. Yeah. You have to get your own restraining order. You set your boundaries.
That's good, Glover.
I learned the hard way going through life. You know,
that's part of it. Part of it is learned because a lot of times that hard way that you're talking about gets you to therapy.
Right.
And that's if you want to. Some people, it will push you to the doors. I can't tell you how many people I've gotten where that slap in the face or that hard way pushed them to my doors and the work began. That's when the best work comes. It doesn't have to be that way, but it usually is.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Wow. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Ms. Glover, how can people find you if they want to seek out your services? Do you do like telehealth, virtual?
I do.
In person? Are you back? Are the therapists back in person too now?
We are. We have an actual brick and mortar, and we're also still on telehealth. A lot of times, especially with regards to the African American community, I want you guys to understand that I also offer life coaching. We do not have to go into full-fledged therapy. I could be your coach. You can be the team, and we could just sit down and strategize. Let's talk. There's a big difference in life coaching and therapy. For those of you who are a little gun shy, we could take it as a conversation and move some stuff around, and you could put me on your team and make me your coach. And let's strategize and move some X's and O's around and get some love going. Self-love.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can find me at I'm at Integrative Wellness Life Coaching with Tisha Glover. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And you can also get me at 973-957-2101. Text. You can text.
Wait, what was that number again? I'm putting it in there in the comments.
973-957.
Okay.
2101.
Okay.
And I say this to you guys, if you mention for the life coaching, because the life coaching is cash and carry. If you mention this chat right here, use Shakima Tech K or whatever. What's the name of your
Current Exposure?
Okay, if you use current exposure, I will give you a discount, 20% on a bundle package.
Awesome. 20%. That's
20%
good.
That
on a
is.
bundle package. A bundle package of 5, 30% on a bundle package of 10. I'm saying it. This is being recorded. Yes, it's
Yep.
out there. I want, and this is just how
20%
much, right.
and get 20% off a bundled
Yeah, tell them
package.
when they text or call, tell them to mention current. Yes.
Nice.
And this right
Okay.
here, this is because people, that dating pool that you guys talked about, like I want to do my 10%, like they talk about in the Bible, the 10% tithe. I want to do my 10% to help clean up that pool.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
good. That's good.
I appreciate that.
Okay? So
I
yeah,
definitely put it in the comments. This is
right.
what I put
That's
up
for
here.
2025. That's 2025.
2025 life coach
That
with
rate, that rate right there, that 20% and that 30% is for 2025. Anybody who
2025.
right, anybody who mentions his current exposure from this day going forward, 20% on a 5.
All
20%
right.
on a 5 package deal, 30% on a 10 package deal.
That's good.
Oh,
All right. All
okay.
right.
So, if you know people, tell them about it. It doesn't necessarily, who I work with, we do take major insurance
Okay.
for the therapy. If you are interested in the therapy, that's a whole nother conversation. You could talk to me about that too. But like I said, if you do not feel like counseling is for you right now and you want to take a softer walk, they're not saying it's not going to hurt, it's not going to sting, but we go in places with coaching. We're going to do some work, but it's just a different type of work.
Yeah. Is definitely work. Like
right. You're going to work.
It's work.
Yeah.
Counseling is something totally different. We take major major insurance. We take health insurance.
Okay.
But coaching, I'm out of pocket, and those are your rates. Like, get the help. If you recognize it, you don't have to be dragged anymore.
Okay. Awesome.
Good.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you're offering your services at a discounted rate to help clean up the fentanyl and the piss and the childhood trauma and the lack of accountability in the dating pool and all the craziness. Because I be seeing some crazy stuff, like the guy that took the lady on a date and gave her a $30 budget. I think that should have been discussed prior to sitting at the restaurant when it's time to order.
Now let me ask a question.
Yes.
Because that has never happened to me, and this is a rare gem of me hearing about.
Yeah.
Who, and I'm asking the listeners too, whose fault is that it got to that point? Who do you think? Is it hers for not asking, his for not being clear? What would you guys think about that?
I thought, like, they're not compatible.
They're not compatible. Because I want to say her, but I would assume that he is the one that initiated the date.
Right.
And so therefore we're going somewhere where you can afford. So I didn't think budgets had to be discussed. And that's $30. You could have ordered Chinese food.
Right.
Yes.
And save $10.
And they were at Applebee's. So don't they have the 2 for $25?
They do have the 2 for $25.
Like, well, you could get 2 whole meals with appetizers for under like $30.
There's also a break. There's a communication break.
Ramona said it was the woman's fault because she didn't really know the person.
Okay.
She went live.
Right. But but in this situation, see how there's a difference of perspective and perception and nobody's wrong.
Okay.
It's based on their belief system, their value system, where they're at, how they feel.
Okay. Okay.
Right? Nobody's
Okay.
wrong.
Okay.
So, okay, so Mr. Rashawn said personally him.
But in this time, both should communicate about date requirements. Yes.
See? And nobody's wrong. No him, her, both. Nobody's wrong. We just got to figure out how to get to a place where we're paired with people who value us and appreciate us for who we are, and what we stand for.
That's good.
That makes sense?
Yes, it does. It does. So we shouldn't have been chiming in and picking sides. It was, but you know what? It was an eye opener because I'm like, I was shocked because I've never even seen anything like that. And then
that's a
more stories about similar encounters people started talking about, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
I've had a few.
I was like, that what?
It's definitely, and because this stuff is probably been going on.
Dating just a date.
Social media has opened a whole nother world up.
So true.
This stuff probably has been going on.
Okay.
But social media has bubbled it up to the surface.
True.
I think.
Wow.
A lot of stuff, maybe it's been going on for a long time. It's just that social media, we're talking about it now. Mark Zuckerberg gave us a very powerful vehicle in Facebook.
Wow. True. Wow. Well, Lauren, did you have anything more to add?
No, because we could talk all day.
Yes.
I do think though, like when we do this in talking about dating, I do think we should talk about topics such as, what is, and again, no right or wrong answer, what is considered a date? What's considered a good first date? People, I don't know if y'all seen it, there was like a list that females were saying, these are not places I want to go on a first date. This is not feasible for me. And there was an argument going back and forth. So I do think it's a matter of beliefs, right or wrong. Should the guy pay? Should we split? Should we go Dutch? All of that stuff makes like social media in an uproar because we have so many different takes on it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely about communication and talking.
Sure. Okay, so is there a standard for a date?
It's a good question. I think
you know what I mean. Like if I'm like, okay, a date for me is you coming over and we're sitting in your car drinking nips in front of the house.
So is
are there standards? Because now we getting into what's going on.
It depends on the person. It depends on the couple.
Or a person saying
what are both of you agreeing to?
If y'all agree, then
so that could be a date.
I think it could be. I guess. I think it could
be.
For me, it would be a date or later down the line. That ain't my first date.
Right. If you gauged it off of my uncle, who was old school, he was pick you up,
right?
Open the car door for you,
right? Okay.
I went to eat,
okay,
at a restaurant.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, he's not taking them to Wendy's or McDonald's.
No.
Sit down.
You go to a restaurant where
they got seating in McDonald's and Wendy's.
No.
Okay.
Right. Now, that's my uncle.
Okay.
He got dressed up
right.
I mean, the now later gators and his pants had a crease in them and his shirt was ironed and he had to smell good. He went and got the haircut. This is what I come from.
Okay. So
is it what I've come to accept over the years? It depends on after I talk to the person and I see how they're rolling.
Okay.
So because I've done the clinical thing and
Uh-huh.
done the clinical thing, I've learned to be like, okay, this person may not be that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
But let me give them a chance and see if we're talking about, because what our first date looks like may not be a precursor to how the relationship is going to be.
Oh, okay. It could be a terrible first date, but a
And a
great
beautiful
relationship.
relationship.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Okay.
true. That's a
Okay.
good.
It
Okay.
depends, but it
Okay.
depends. But it goes back to that life literacy and learning how to comprehend and ask those hard questions on the first couple of days. But you're only going to get that if you go to pre-counseling, pre-relational counseling, and find the questions that need to be asked.
Okay.
Because some people don't know, and it's okay not to know, but it's not okay to stay not knowing.
True.
Oh, now at what point? How much time does a person get, or is there a cutoff when they get to not know? Because I think when you get to a certain age, like okay, going back to the man that gave the budget, this should have been discussed
I'm getting the
beforehand.
impression, Shakim, I'm getting the impression that this guy really put a bug in your craw with the
Yeah,
I'm
because
getting the impression that you're very upset about that.
I was bothered because even if he didn't like the lady, or and you know what, it's because of what I've actually seen my uncle do too. Like your uncle, you said he picked the date up, took the date to dinner, and at a nice restaurant. Like my uncle, he took this woman out. She ordered 2 lobsters. He was upset. But he said, he still let the date go on and it be nice, showed the lady a good time. But at the end of the day, he took her home, all that stuff. He was a complete gentleman. But no, there was no second date. And he called me after the date and he was like, that's it for her. That's the first and last time. He talked about how rude she was, all this other stuff. And I was like, okay, with this guy, you didn't even get a lady enough rope to hang herself.
Right.
My uncle gave the lady rope. Like, okay, like, this is the first date. He said she didn't order 1 lobster. She ordered 2. Then she ordered
wait. One wasn't for him?
No. She ordered 2 lobsters for herself.
Absolutely not. No.
So I thought, like, wow, but this guy, they're at Applebee's. There are no lobsters at Applebee's. No matter what you order at Applebee's, it's gonna be cheap.
Right.
And he was like making a stake about this budget. I'm like, if you feel like that, why did you even take this lady on a date?
Why even put yourself in a situation to date? You shouldn't be
right. And seeing my uncle as a reference of, okay, she won't get a second date, but he was a gentleman. He didn't give her a budget. He just, noted that in the back of his mind.
Right.
And I thought when that guy did that, he didn't give the relationship a chance to develop, because the lady could have ordered something off the $5 menu.
Right. He gave her the preface.
Before
even.
She had the menu and he said that. So that was a turn off for her. And they could have been a good couple.
Right. But can you imagine what his past relationships probably were like?
Yep. The lady's ordering 2 lobsters.
Right.
Double lobster and all types of seafood.
Right.
That she wouldn't be able to get with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So my uncle, and my uncle felt like that in that particular case, he wouldn't date her again, and he doesn't want to pursue anything because he saw the red flag from the beginning that she's going to try to take advantage of me.
Right.
Right.
But he gathered data first,
Yeah.
Right.
but he
And
didn't know that.
that's what the dating world is about, gathering information.
True. True.
You're asking questions. You're getting to know this person. You're just not going out on dates and collecting collecting mementos, like going to shows, and that's
Right.
part of it. But
Right.
the other part is getting to know the person, sitting down, talking. Every date doesn't have to necessarily consist of monetary.
That's
Right.
true.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly. Like a walk in the park is a date for me.
Mhm.
What are you
You
talking about? How are you
Mhm.
interacting? What are you exchanging? And I'm not just talking about from your wallet to my pocketbook.
Right.
Right.
What are we
Right.
exchanging here and in here?
Mhm.
Yeah, in the heart. Yep.
Right. What's in your heart? Are
Yeah.
you kind? Do you
Yeah.
care about people? Do you care about me?
Yeah.
If something were to happen to me today or tomorrow, this is my value system. If something were to happen to me because I'm getting up into that age, if something were to happen to me today or tomorrow where I couldn't speak for myself and I ended up in the hospital, who would speak for me?
Right.
Or with
Right.
my partner, the person that put that ring on my finger, would they just be saying, doctor, you know what? Give her 48 hours because he may not say it, but she got a healthy life insurance policy.
Wow.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. I've seen some forensic files on that one.
Am I
And I'm like, oh my gosh, they got kids together and you off your wife
right?
for a couple of thousands?
Right. So ask yourself, these are things that seem small, just dating, but that dating leads to bigger things because this person may be the person who either fight for you,
Yeah.
or they'll
I
just
like
let
that.
you float away in the wind and send you to a nursing home and just, whatever.
Wow. I want the person that's gonna fight.
Right.
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 And a person that's gonna fulfill my wish. Like if
I
don't have me on life support if my brain dead.
But these long-term conversations where we ended up at,
Yeah.
this stuff right here only happens in the circumference of that 45 minutes that we talk about.
Okay.
If you say that you're broken and you got pieces that need to be pulled together to make a nice mosaic, it happens with work. Being intentional. With saying, I'm tired of the way the legacy that was handed down to me from my great grandmother and my grandmother, and they didn't do it intentionally.
Right.
No, but I'm tired of that legacy that was handed down. I want to hand down to my children a different legacy.
Okay.
One of healing, one of hope, one of health, one of wealth.
Yes.
But that comes with work.
Yeah.
Wow. This was a really good conversation. What were you going to say, Lauren?
I was gonna say, with dates too, I think it's also in, like you said about your uncle, the preparation.
Yes.
As well. And also the thought process. I'm gonna share two of my worst dates. My first date was I was like early college, and I got asked out by a guy, and I went out. He picked me up, did all the things, went out. And the check came, and he asked me to split it. Now, this was not a conversation that we had in the beginning. He asked me to split it. And me being thrown off guard, I'm like, okay. And I split it, pay for my whatever. And after it was over, I think we went to Dave and Buster's and stuff like that, whatever. And he had paid for, the car and stuff like that. But in the back of my mind, I was hot. That he made for this. I was heated. And,
Never
looking
again.
for class. And it might have been like a Tuesday. And matter of fact, like Sunday night, Monday, I called my daddy. I called my uncle. And I said, I want to ask y'all something because I wanted a man's perspective. Am I overreacting? Am I tripping? Should he have done this? Should I be upset? Should I not be upset? And they were like, no, you're right. And that gave me kind of like the leeway to call him. I said, hey, I'm going to ask you a question. And he was like, yeah, what's up? And I said, was, you know, was that the intention? Were we always going to split or stuff like that? And his response to me was, I don't pay for dates unless you are my girlfriend or unless we are sexually active.
Wow.
And he was dead serious, dead as a doorknob. And I was like, so I have to open myself to you intimately in order for you to do something?
What?
And he told me yes.
What?
And that shut me down for a very long time. I didn't want to date anybody else. And I definitely didn't talk to him after that. And I had a date, what did I say, like last year? I'm going to shout out low-key, Deanna Rashon. That's my best friend.
Hey,
In the
Deanna.
comments. I was asked out, you know, for a Valentine's Day weekend. Hey, get dressed, pack your bags, meet me here. We're going to do all the things, especially. And I was so excited about it because I had been preaching to him about initiation, about intention. And so he finally got the hint. And I was at work and I got the text out of the blue on my lunch break. And I was like, oh my God, he finally gets it. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
And so, you know, we met up, we did the hotel thing and got dressed. And I got my hair done and all that stuff, whatever.
Wow.
And I'm getting ready, you know, doing my makeup, getting cute, stuff like that. And he asked me, he said, did you look at the menu? And I said, yeah, I looked because I had never been to the place. I wanted to see what they had and stuff like that. And he was like, okay, you know what you're getting? And I said, no, not really. I just kind of glossed over it. And I said, why you asking me that? And he said, because I wanted to make sure I have enough. From there, he did not realize that I was completely turned off for the whole night because you made me come over here, you made me get dressed, you made me get my hair done, get my nails done. I'm thinking you have stuff. This is what you text me. I didn't ask for this.
Right.
And now it's 30 minutes before we're getting ready to head to the restaurant. And I don't know what's going to happen when this bill comes.
If you're going to have to pay half.
I don't know if I'm going to have to pay half. I don't know if I'm going to have to pay whole. I don't know if you're dipping into your savings while you're trying. I don't know. And so my thing with him was I had no sense of security. I can't enjoy the date because now I'm not secure in you.
Right.
Who can enjoy a date?
These are perfect examples.
Who can enjoy a date
if
I don't feel like you got me?
Right.
And that's an indicator of what will be in the relationship. Will you have me?
Do you have me? Can I trust you? Do I have to sit up? You know, do I have to cringe when the bill comes? Do I have to kind of side eye to see if you got it? Because if I'm not secure in you and this is a date, there's no way I'm going to be secure in our relationship.
Oh,
and so while he was trying to get through everything else with the night, the time he asked me, you know, what are you looking at? Because I want to make sure I had enough. The date was over for me before we had even got in the car, before we even got to the restaurant, because now my security is down. And so I can't trust you with anything, you know, my mind, my soul, my body, my anything, because I'm not secure.
Yeah.
I'm not secure. And so I think preparation goes into a lot of things, but so does security.
Yeah. Right.
So, but I'm like, these, like you said, these are all things that you can get from pre-relational counseling or dating. You are able to see certain things like that. And my relationship with him was just that, insecure, the whole entire time. For a year and a half, 2 years, because there was nothing about you that said I could relax. I couldn't relax in you.
Oh my gosh, that's like anxiety.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's why after you come out of a relationship with that much stuff, what would it look like if you said, you know what, I got to go talk to somebody about this anxiety, this trauma, this, right? All of this stuff that happened to me, so I could unpack this before I go to the next place, next person.
Yeah. True. This is so good, y'all.
This was good.
This is. Thank you both for coming on. You're more than welcome to return.
What is Lauren's information?
Yes, Lauren C. Andra.
Lauren C. Andra, I am on Instagram. I was on TikTok.
We can add, what is it?
At Lauren, yes.
Wait,
LAURYN.
TikTok's still going.
Yeah, but not for me.
Why?
Okay.
Because when they I'm sorry, Ceandra is CEONDRA. When they said that the ban was happening on the 19th, I deleted my app. And so it's still active, but TikTok
Wow.
is actually not on the App Store right now. So I cannot download it right now.
Wow.
But the same
So if
content
you would have
that's on
left
TikTok,
your stuff on,
it's still there.
no, but I'm saying if you would have left it on,
Yep.
the app, you would have been able to. You would still be okay.
Correct. So I'm hoping sooner than later they put it back on the App Store and I can get back down to it because people are commenting and doing it and I can't get to it.
Right.
But my content is the same from TikTok and Instagram. I stand from my tagline is I'm a girl on her soft life and self-love journey. So my content is around self-love. It's around being a soft girl. It's about being able to come into your femininity. And so I show certain things like that. I have also been a makeup artist for 15 years. So I do show makeup tips as well. I do also still book appointments like that. So on my content, you're going to see the same person I am now, real, authentic, and I do share my life story just like I shared on here, to encourage girls in their 20s and their millennial stage, to just be on their self-love journey and do what's best for them.
Right. That works.
Wow.
This was really nice.
It was.
I really like this, and people
The
have
guy
been
said
asking me.
TikTok is back on. Trump removed the ban.
It is
okay.
back, but it's not on the App Store.
So the App Store doesn't have it. Okay,
No.
wow. So I think you got to go through these workarounds on the internet to get. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. You got to invest too much in it. But yeah, people have been asking for me to do a relationship show and talk about toxic relationships, how to get to successful relationships. And I'm glad I got the two of you to do it.
This was really good.
And in time for Valentine's Day, before people waste money or go on dates and get a budget or go on a date and have anxiety about the date.
Yeah.
It's like so crazy now with like meeting people, and I think this is my opinion and from my perspective and life experience, it's a lot of broken relationships like all around, and I'm just like I'm scared to even be out there because I'm like I don't want to get what I've been getting, and enough is enough for me. I'd rather be on a I need to be on a self-love journey like Lauren C. Andra.
Yeah.
It's okay. One of the best friends is why not hang out with the person that you see every day, and that's you. Learn to hang out with that person, and something different may happen for you on the other side when it's time to step out.
Right. I've definitely learned a lot from my solo dates, from my solo trips. Booking hotel stays in another city, or because you get to do what you want to do and you learn things about yourself. Sometimes, like you said, you have to be alone by yourself to be able to know when somebody asks you, what do you want? You got to be able to tell them.
Right.
And you got to be able to be by yourself to be able to do that. So
right.
I'm team solo dates. Get yourself a room, get yourself a hotel room, take a day trip, do anything you need to do for yourself. You don't need a group all the time.
Or a person. The person is you. The person is you.
The person is you. Very true.
Shout out to Miss Rashawn, her best friend, Lauren.
My best friend,
Yes. Awesome. And I thank you both again. Thank you to the observers out there. Thank you for getting into the comments. You can find Lauren at Lauren Ciandra on Instagram. You can reach out to Tisha Glover at 973-957-2101 for life coaching. And if you use the code Current Exposure, you'll get 20% off a bundle package. So people, get into it, get your life right. This is 2025 and we're supposed to thrive in this year. From this year going forward. All right?
Yes.
All growth, all self-evolving, self-appreciation, self-reflection,
Yes.
Self-love, all of that good stuff.
Yep.
So if any of you ladies have anything else to say before we get off the live, we almost made it to the 2-hour mark, so this was good. This was good. When they go past the hour mark, people are engaged, they loving it, so this was good.
This was good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anything else? Any last comments?
That's it. I mean, I feel like I'm tapped out.
Tapped out. But we need to have the both of you back on for a recap at some point, you know, and see where everyone is with their relationships and their advice, and yeah.
For sure.
All right.
Absolutely. I'm more than willing to come back anytime.
Me
anytime.
too.
This was really good.
Awesome.
I had a couple of other things, and we could talk about it.
We gotta keep going because there's still so much.
You can never touch on any. You can't touch. I think we don't even have enough. We don't even have a little bit of dirt on our fingernails from scratching.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Wait, you know what? Before we go, hold up. I had this question to ask the gentleman, Kevin Samuels. Since you're an actual professional in the field of therapy, Kevin he passed away.
Yeah, he passed away. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you agree with the advice that he was giving? Was he a professional or was this?
No, he wasn't a professional.
Okay.
He wasn't a professional. But what I will say about Mr. Samuels, some of his stuff was the truth, but it was how he administered it.
Okay.
It was too brash, too harsh.
I thought because I'm thinking, y'all know, Gestalt, Gestalt. I thought he took the Gestalt technique.
No, in my opinion, some of the stuff that he was saying was the truth, but it was too harsh. It's not sometimes what you say, it's how you say it.
Okay, got you.
And I also observed as a clinician that some of I would hear people say that what was his issues with women?
Right.
Specifically African-American women.
Okay.
I would hear people say that. And I could see where, clinically speaking, there was something there. Something
okay.
I sat with him and had a conversation with him. Well, I wouldn't be able to now, but if I sat with him, there would definitely be a conversation had about his upbringing.
Okay.
His experiences in dating.
Okay.
A woman break his heart.
Okay.
Something happened there because you could hear little twinges of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the low value.
Some stuff. Sometimes I would listen. I chime in on I don't just let myself listen to a person one time and then I say no. There was a few times I listened to him, and then one time I listened to him, and I totally disagreed with what he was saying to this young lady.
Okay.
I totally disagreed on all fronts. Whether he was too harsh, it wasn't the truth. He was basically coming out of a place of ego and ignorance.
Okay. But people really was like quoting.
He had
right. And they were quoting the things he was saying, like the low value. And I'm like, where'd you get, like, he just made up stuff.
Right.
So,
there was some stuff I did not totally agree with on all fronts, but there was some stuff that I said, I could lend an ear to that. Mm-hmm. And then there was some stuff I said, this man is kind of, something happened to him.
Okay.
I would be interested in interviewing him and working with him to see where exactly his life went askew.
Okay.
So it was interesting. He was an interesting character.
He definitely was a character, though. Yeah. Yeah, because I would be like, oh my gosh, how could people really take him serious?
No,
But
there was he
people
had
were
a huge
following him.
following.
I
He
had a
had a huge
friend.
following.
I have a male friend that loved him.
Huge following.
But guess what? He's still single.
Huge following. Because he was
People.
real controversial. It was like this.
Okay. Okay.
It wasn't his whole thing wasn't straight. His
Okay.
platform was like this.
Okay.
Some
Got
days
you.
you could get something good from him. Some days it was like, oh my God. And then some days you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so sad. I want to just tell him
Right.
it's gonna be all right.
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 It was a
So
couple of things, but yeah, interesting.
okay. All right. So that's all I had to ask. But
Okay. So
thank
we're
you so
here.
much.
You are
Lauren,
welcome.
it was
Thank
a
you for
pleasure
having me.
co-hosting.
It was a pleasure co-hosting with you, Miss Glover. An absolute pleasure.
And I'm definitely gonna look you up on Instagram.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
Okay,
All right. This is Current Exposure. We are out. Peace.
Peace.